What's up, guys? It's me, JellyKnees. And I don't know why I pause between knees every time, but I've noticed that I've done it every single time, so I don't think I'm going to stop anytime soon. But that's not the point. Let's get into the new fun fact that we got about progression. And it's progression of a bunch of things. They talked about like four and a half technically different progression systems. And so the each system is going to be there is going to be account levels, player levels, ranked, and myth mastery. But let's start with the account levels. We'll get right into it because I feel like this is going to be a pretty long one. So the account levels is going to be used as a metric to gauge kind of your playtime in Ethereal, and that the higher level you are, the more time you've put into the game. And so there's no limit to how many levels you can accrue in your account levels, but each level will get harder and harder to achieve. That it costs more XP, so you have to play more games in order to get to that next level, and that'll eventually peak out at level 100, where the XP will stay the same for every level going up from there. Otherwise, it would just get ridiculous trying to put in a formula to get to the highest levels, 200, 300, etc. Um, so in order to earn the XP, you have to play some games. Win or lose, you're going to gain some amount of XP toward that account level. And like I said, when you hit level 100, that account level will stop, and it's just going to be, just like I said, a metric of your playtime in the game. Next up, we have player level, which kind of seems like Ethereal's take on an honor system. And I think for the most part, this sounds like a really great idea, but we'll have to wait to see what the application looks like in order to really tell that for sure. But so this level will be a metric that people can look at and see kind of just how you play when you win games, what it's like. If you're toxic the whole time and your team dishonors you throughout the entire game and maybe reports you or you AFK or anything like that, your player level is going to go down and show other players that that's a typical behavior of yours. Whereas if when you're winning the game, at the end, your team honors you and says that like you were really good with teamwork or communication or helpful or kind or just a fun player to play with, then you're going to get a higher player level, which will show players that all of those things apply to you. And this is going to be a level that fluctuates throughout your time in Ethereal. And like I said, I think it'll be really interesting to see how it's done, because there's going to be a learning curve to this system, in that if your carry decides that your support is playing terribly, whether they are or not, and dishonors them at the end of the game, that's going to get weighted differently because they're getting dishonored, but it may be for a non-justified reason. So it's a very weird system. The way they said that they're going to display this is that there's going to be icons, if I remember correctly. Level icons to showcase your player level to others you'll meet in game. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. It could work really well, but I could also see it being a public shaming system, and that if I can see that you're the lowest player level, that I could just dodge a game, or I could just flame you the entire game, and but kind of it preempts my thought process on that level. Whereas if I see a whole team of the highest player levels, it'll do the same thing where I go, oh wow, these people are all really nice players or good players, whatever you want to think about it, and be more willing to play with them over the others. So it's going to be a very fine balance that they're going to have to find in that system. And I'm curious to see how they're going to weed out the false reports and false issues that just come up from being a online competitive game where some people believe that you're doing something wrong, but it may be the right decision, and vice versa. So one of the other systems we have is the ranked system. Now, the ranked system we have little to no information about. They said it will not be instituted in the pre-alpha of Ethereal, but it will be at a later time. And kind of that's about it. It's your stereotypical ranked system, so it's just showing your skill level directly compared to other people's skill level. They didn't go into what the tiers of the ranked system are, and they didn't go into how many ranked tiers there will be. My guess is that they'll kind of stick to the MOBA average of like 7 or 8 different tiers, ranging from bronze up to grandmaster, challenger, whatever they're going to call it. Um, and with that, we have this image in the background here that shows 10 silhouetted or 9 silhouetted images and one that's not. And if I switch over here real quick, we see that this is kind of some kind of success. You've done something, kind of achievement with this animation on this first symbol. So I personally don't think this is the ranked system. I think this will be the myth mastery system, which we'll get into in a second here. So I'm really curious to see where the ranked system comes in and how they're going to handle promotions and demotions and all of the things thereof in order to make it feel worthwhile to play ranked. Because I know a lot of the people that I've been talking to in the Ethereal community aren't big ranked players. They play the game for fun. They like playing the game for fun, and they feel like ranked makes it a sweaty mess a lot of the time. And so it's hard to convince players to play ranked, but then there are also the ranked diehards that will only ever play ranked. So I'm curious to see how they'll find that balance of shifting players to both sides and make it worthwhile for everybody, so that when they try to cross over to the other side of playing normals or playing ranked, depending, they are going to feel like it was worth their time to do so instead of feeling stuck in one area of the game. Now, this is probably the biggest section of the progression fun fact that we got, and it talks about myth mastery. And this is where I say that it's 4.5 different systems, because this is kind of 1.5 by itself. So that you're going to have your initial myth mastery, which sounds to me like it's going to work very similarly to Paragon, in that when you play a myth, you're going to earn mastery points for that myth, and as you reach certain thresholds, you may get certain unlocks for them, icons, things like that, and eventually you'll hit the top of that myth mastery system. The initial myth mastery is influenced by your wins and then your actual performance on that myth as well. So if you're playing Leah in the jungle and you go 22, 0, and 15, that will weigh greatly into your favor of getting more myth mastery points than if you play Leah jungle and go 0, 10, and 5. So I'm curious to see how much that performance weighs it. I'm also curious to see how they weigh the performance for supports. Notoriously, in systems like this, you have an issue with supports where it looks like they didn't do anything, but in reality, they have done plenty. That their CC score is off the chart, their vision score is off the chart, that they're actually doing way more of that than anybody else on their team, but it's not considered into the mastery of that champion for the goals. So I'm curious to see how supports fall into that, and just the performance in general, how it's weighed to make it feel fair. But once you get to the maximum of the initial myth mastery, you're going to unlock myth prestiges. And that's where I think these symbols come into play, and that these are the myth prestige levels, because it says in the fun fact that there are 10 prestige levels, and we have 10 symbols here, 1 we see and 9 that we don't. The interesting thing is that with the initial myth mastery, you can only go up. If you lose a game or perform badly, you're never going to lose mastery points. Once you enter this prestige, though, you will start losing on losses and bad performances. So it's going to be a much harder climb for people to get higher up in these prestige tiers and stay there. The nice thing that they're going to do is that once you reach prestige 2 on a myth, you can never fall below prestige 2, which I think is a great way to do that. That doesn't feel like I can get to prestige 2 and then go on a lose streak, whether it be I'm performing badly or I'm being matched up with teams that are performing badly, whatever it may be, that I will at least stop at the bottom of prestige 2. I can't go to negative points, and I can't de-level from that prestige. So it's a very safe system, and it feels like it will be worthwhile to get higher up into those prestiges to see where you fall in the course of mastering your myth. And when you see somebody that has the prestige 10 on Leah Jungle, you know that that's a player who understands the ins and outs of Leah, that worked hard, played a lot of games in order to get there. It's not something that they can just it's not just that they played enough games to get to that point, because that's consistent wins all the way up and through prestige 10 and to hold that spot. Now, for this system, I would love to see that once you hit that prestige 10, that there's some kind of a leaderboard, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, that I can infinitely earn points upwards past 10 and comparatively see other players and where they fall in that same mastery list. But that's a system I don't expect to have from the start by any stretch of the imagination. And I would expect it no earlier than 6 months to a year down the line for them to start adding those more competitive aspects of individual myths, not even just in the ranked system or anything like that. Now, when you achieve these prestige ranks, there's going to be like mini checkpoints in each one, it sounds like, based on the post. That I think is a great way to do that. If you've ever played Overwatch, you can tell that when you capture one of the points, there's 3 chunks that you can sit on. And I'd imagine it's something similar to that kind of helps save your progress a little bit, or it's harder to fall past those lines and things like that. The other thing they mentioned for these prestige ranks is that the higher up in the prestige rank you get, you're going to lose more points on a loss and gain fewer points on a win. So it's really going to be a grind toward the top side where one game can set you back 5 wins, which feels bad, but also if you were able to get past that and win enough games to get to that prestige 10 will feel like an absolute achievement because of it. So I'm really excited to see this myth system. I know that I'm going to be one-tricking a lot of people trying to grind up these prestige ranks in order to get the best one possible. But I'm really curious to see how it all plays out and how you guys in the community feel about more of these changes and what you think all of that is going to feel like and entail. Now, the other thing I did mention in my video yesterday, that these gems on the bottom are meaningful of something. So I probe you guys again. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts about what you think these gems could possibly mean in terms of progression. I'll limit it down a little bit. We've never had anything in the fun facts that wasn't related to the fun fact itself. So I'm going to limit you guys that come up with ideas for these gems that are just related to the progression systems and the 4.5 that I just laid out. And I'm very curious to hear your guys' thoughts about it. But guys, with that, that's the end of this video. I greatly appreciate you guys for hanging out. I'm curious to hear all your thoughts about all the progression systems, what you think about the honor system, ranked, my thoughts of having a myth mastery ranking going into infinite and things like that. But guys, hit subscribe if you enjoy this video, hit the like button if you want to see more of it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.